Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Alex.
Nima. How you doing?
Wonderful.
Good, good. It's beautiful. It's beautiful day here in Florida where I am at the moment. Um and you are particularly, as if I'm not mistaken, on up north over there. Is that right?
Yes, that's true. I am. My home is in Houston, Texas. Since 2024, I'm on an international assignment, which we will talk about it.
Yeah.
We moved to Alberta, so right now I'm in Edmonton.
Even though Houston could be north off of Florida, but
Yeah,
the real north, the real
very
north
north.
is in Saskatchewan, right?
Yes.
The Alberta. Uh,
So we went from extreme heat to extreme cold. So
so how do you like that? What do you
it's
like
it's,
more?
it's yeah, it's good. The winter get to minus 35 C. Um, it's, I mean, it probably it's same as Houston getting to 110 Fahrenheit. So you just dress up appropriately. We are enjoying life here.
Well, that's good. That's good. And yeah, no matter where you are, no matter what you do, you gotta enjoy it. I always say, I like to spend time with the people, and as long as I have my people around me, we can enjoy life. Good.
100%.
Look, I we wanted to talk about capital projects, obviously, and some of the project controls tech, or tech around the execution of those mega projects, right? Call it mega projects. Um, that is always interesting how it changes the perspective on execution, on planning, and basically everything is time, not even time, times X, like 10x, or the complexity. Everything is like mega. If there's a problem, there's a mega problem,
That's right.
right?
That's right. Yes.
Um, so how if you have a great career, and all the mega projects under the belt, very impressive. If you can get us a uh quick thought around, like, how did you get to capital projects? I mean, like, how do you get to this magnitude of projects? And was this something that you've been doing from day one, or you kind of evolved into that space, from, say, smaller projects or non-mega projects?
Sure. First, thanks for having me in this podcast. And I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation today. Um, I'm a senior project engineer manager, and I'm doing uh, large capital project during the last 10 years. I right now I'm leading execution of utility scale power distribution project, which is part of a mega program that we are delivering here in Canada. And how I get to this mega project, obviously, a step by step, right? I started after I finished my school. I started being a welding inspector, which was very tough job to do. And that's probably 24, 25 years ago. And slowly I grew in the industry, trying different roles or different industries during the last 25 years. I was involved in the commercial. I was an engineer doing designing and engineering, and then actually in 2000. 2011, I start working with industry. We call it EPC, which is engineering, procurement, and construction. I start working for an EPC company, which we were designing and procuring the material, and we built a refinery in South America. And since then, I slowly uh, uh, grow in the business. It take a lot of time. I think getting involved in this large size multi-billion dollar project, it has to be a slow. Otherwise, it's gonna be a lot of stress, and I think people won't enjoy it if they don't grow into the uh, multi-billion dollar project. So it took me a while.
Hmm. But you're also the PE, right? You're also the professional engineer, which I have a lot of respect to that. You know, that's not uh, people complain about PMP is complicated. Uh, um, well, I'm fortunate to also be the engineer. However, my background is from post-Soviet. You know, I'm from Belarus originally, so my engineering background is from there. So I'm by trade, you know, by training, I am mechanical engineer. I think you mentioned you welding, and that reminded me. Oh, we had a practice where I had to weld, you know, something too, just for.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Tell me about welding. I mean, this is amazing. How that's exactly the path I was trying to establish or connect the connection between you because you starting with welding and you know really on the ground like kind of boots on the ground type of engineering and then kind of evolving into the business side of it and actually managing mega projects like this. Do you think that helped you being an engineer and being on the ground and have that experience um, doing that in your early age in the early days and now possibly understand what is exactly happening on the ground while you actually managing, you know, from the overarching perspective.
Yeah. Just going back to the PE. Yes, I have PE and I have PMP too. For the PE, when I was studying for the test, I remember I start getting spasm in my neck because for hours you have to keep your neck down to solve the problem. So yeah, I always say that, you have to practice, but you have to solve the problem, obviously, but you have to have a physical strength in your neck because you have to keep it down for probably a few hours.
You
Um,
literally you literally had a neck for it. So
yeah. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, starting as a field inspector actually helped me a lot. And because at first I had to review the issue for construction drawing. So it was a probably first time that I had a set of drawing open in front of me. I had the procedure. I had to go through them to understand what we are doing, what type of welding is being done at site. Um, that was one great part. The other part was just being in the field. I remember we were doing some modification to a heat exchanger. I mean, seeing that heat exchanger, we open up the heat exchanger, taking the part apart and start working on it. The dynamic at the construction site, right? You have a construction contractor. There is an owner. There is a general contractor. How they talk together. How the weekly progress meeting uh, being managed by the contractor. That was a great experience for me to see everything in the field. And like I said, after that, I was doing drafting and designing. That was a great experience for me too, because I was the person sitting in the cubicle, listening to my music and just doing drafting. The markup come from engineer. I open up the AutoCAD and start drafting it. So this right now, this particular example helped me to understand my contractor. Sometimes we ask them, okay, revise this drawing, right? They may say, okay, take 10 hours, right? I know it will take probably 10 hours. By the time you open it, you read the information, you draft it, someone review it, someone back check it, and then issue it if it needs to be stamped by a professional P technically. So having that understanding of what's going on, boot on ground, inside the field, what's going on in the office, in the design phase, it was great. And that's something that I probably leverage every day
Yeah, I'm sure.
throughout my interaction with my contractor and my EPC company right now.
Yeah, it's always good to know how to weld if you're managing the big welding, job, and things like that. And overall engineering, well, is my passion. Engineering, and I've been engineering, mechanical engineer, but now more into the software or models, mathematical models and stuff like that. But it's always fascinated how a lot of this knowledge can pop up as useful over projects that that may not seem to be as technical or leading into the technology. Let me ask you this: um, what is it the typical week look like when you manage a large scale, high voltage projects like that out there in Saskatchewan, Canada?
Sure. And yeah, it depends on which phase of the project technically you are. This mega project, multi-billion-dollar project, from the FEL, which is when we start planning, to the time that we commission it and hand it over to the operation, it takes several years. So it depends on where you are in this a timeline. Typically, the day will look different. Um, if I just give a very quick high level about the timeline, first we get the project. We start doing a high level estimate. We start defining a very high level schedule for it. Without getting to the detail, we usually use benchmark number from our experience from other projects that we have done. And then it goes through the capital authorization. If the project get the authorization, it will go to the next step. So you start refining the cost estimate and the schedule. Probably you send out the request for quote for the equipment to have a better number for your equipment, your lead time for the equipment, especially in this market that some equipment right now are like 3.5, 4 years lead time. So technically, you refine your schedule and your cost forecast. Then you go through the gate review again. If you get the authorization, then you go to the detailed design. The detailed design is when you will get probably hundreds of engineer and project team support from piping engineer, electrical engineer, instrument engineer, mechanical, you name it, process engineer, project control, procurement. You get the your team expands significantly, and you start designing the details. You start refining your 3D model. You start working on your procurement purchase order because you have to engage your supplier because their input has impact on the detailed design. And as you progress the detailed design, you place the purchase order for your equipment, you slowly technically move to the construction. The construction.
Go ahead. Just want
Sure. And
yeah.
then in the construction, you start doing the early work. It can be site prep. It can be making the laydown area, making the site ready to receive the probably thousands of pieces of pipe or steel or large expensive equipment. Then slowly you move to the construction. mechanical completion, testing, and commissioning. So right now in my project, my daily activity is more toward the construction. We are building this.
Hmm.
So dealing with construction contractor and the equipment supplier that we receive on site, we try to have them installed and get ready for any testing that we have to do. Um, this is how technically my day look like right now in construction.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Let's talk about the FEL a little bit. And I was at the uh, Project Control Summit. I know you know some of the people from there, um, from a Project Controls Academy. That was a lot of talk about the front loading and how important this is to do the proper planning before you commit expensive mega resources, right? Does this um amplifies the risk or the significance of FEL, stage 1, 2, 3, whatever this is, to do this appropriately, because the stakes are much higher than, you know, for mega project. The more expensive the project, the higher the stakes are. In your experiences, how much of the risk would you put into that stage of the project versus, say, active procurement or construction, execution, commissioning? What do you think about the FEL importance? Or is it overhyped, overrated, or underrated?
It's not overrated. FEL or feed, they call it, it's same. Um, it's the most critical part of the project, probably, or one of the most critical part of the project, because in FEL you set everything. You commit to the schedule, you commit to the cost. So as a project manager, you're responsible to deliver based on your FEL result. Throughout the project, after you finish the FEL, you go to the detailed design and construction and procurement and construction. You always compare yourself with your number during FEL. So FEL is really important. But these days, actually, I made a post in LinkedIn because the current market condition and everything happened from geopolitical, supply chain, or we had COVID. Somehow this FVL time, it's getting shorter and shorter. And the reason is you have to place your equipment purchase order probably earlier to
Before
have
the
your equipment delivered,
before you complete your
design.
FEL 1, right? You
Yeah,
you may need to start putting those POs because
yeah.
the lead time is crazy sometimes.
The lead time is, yeah,
Mm.
definitely. So it even right now make the FEL more important to pay attention on, like I said, because you set your project based on FEL information. That's your baseline. You measure your performance based on the number you set during FEL, and also the market condition that you probably need to pull some of the detailed design work to the FEL.
Why do you think it's? I don't want to say neglected the importance of the FEL, but uh, a lot of owners would not put a lot of emphasis on, or they don't want to spend a lot of money in that stage of the project, just because you're not building anything. They don't see that value right away, and that's front loaded, right? It's like, why would I don't. It's hard to convince. Why do you think it's hard to convince, well, not all of the owners, but many, to do the proper FEL process that's supposed to yield, more predictable outcomes of the project? Why do you think it's not paid, owners not paying attention to it as much as they may need to or should to?
Yeah, sure. In my position and me as owner, we understand it, how important FEL is, and we always spend enough time to make sure we understand our FEL. I understand probably some other owner companies, they probably try to skip it because, like you said, the money you spend there, if the project don't get the authorization from the board, it's probably, I mean, that money is just gone. Probably, that's what I think. Or they want to probably compress their schedule. They want to just get into the detailed design, start ordering their equipment, um, and they probably think, okay, I would deal with that later during the detail design, which uh, the the impact to the project objective will be much more significant to deal with those problems that you have to solve or define the plan for it during FEL. You postpone it to do it during the detail design. The impact to the project objectives, which your cost, your schedule, and your scope of work, quality, safety, the impact will be much more if you delay those decision making to detail design.
So you guys work with a lot of contractors and a lot of stakeholders. Mega projects have mega number of the stakeholders. It's not limited. It's a big number. Do you have a special methods to manage expectations of those stakeholders? And maybe anything specific that or creative that was done recently? Um, you can share.
Absolutely. The basic is to make sure you have all your interface agreement agreed and signed in early phase of the project. In this mega project, I probably have 10, 20 stakeholder that I should connect my system to their unit. Everything should be agreed in very early in the detailed design. If those requirements are not defined and every project run their project in silo, then when they get to the construction and start building it, they will find out, okay, the flange type on each end is not same flange, which happened. I saw that. The flange pattern was different, or the location was off, or the piping spec was different and it couldn't work out. So um, everything, all the interfaces, all the requirements should be discussed and agreed, signed at the early um, part of the detailed design work. And the hard decision and difficult conversation should not be delayed to later.
Now it's interesting. Difficult conversations. Tell me about difficult conversations. What do you mean by that?
So difficult conversation is the conversation that each parties have their own objectives and the objectives are not aligned and they have to trade off, give something, get something. So those conversations are difficult to be on each side of it. It's difficult. And um, people are different. They react to this type of conversation in a different manner, to be flexible, to be to have emotional intelligence to deal with this difficult conversation, to be solution oriented, to focus on the program goals in this case, because program has several projects, right? Just focusing on the program goals instead of personal, I guess I can call it ego or something like that, and work with the other party to solve it. These conversations are not easy most of the time. Like I said, because every party look at their own objectives and
But
they're not
without
willing to give and they just want to receive.
without calling names or anything, what was the hardest uh uncomfortable what was the most uncomfortable message you had to send recently? If you can. Um Like someone had to go and ship those pipes that are not fitting back to where they came from, and then order new ones. Is that typically not easy
Yeah,
conversation?
yeah, it's not because you have to, in this example, um, uh, you have to go back, talk to your engineering company or your engineering team if you did the engineering in house. Then you have to talk to the supplier if they build this based on the engineering document. You have to go back, check your interface agreement. If the other party agreed with the wrong spec or wrong design, then you start talking with people, and usually people start pointing finger at each other. Then it becomes difficult if you get to that phase. In a professional environment, that most of the people who are involved on this large project, they understand the nature of this project, that they work together. But if you have someone that has um, less tolerance, or not understanding the whole picture, that those conversations will be difficult because you have to go negotiate with your supplier, with your contractor, with your engineer. A large group of people get involved, then solving those issues or having those conversations will be difficult.
So for those viewers who are looking at, listening to us and not necessarily familiar with the construction, site, planning and project management per se, especially with at the large magnitude, like mega projects. How do you actually do this communication? Like, how do you put the heart head, and then and have a meeting, and everybody's like, I know that there's some stakeholders are obviously not on site, and you have teams, Zoom team meetings or things like that. How do you communicate to your stakeholders on a regular basis, including the ones that are on site, contractors, other stakeholders, other people on the project? How do you guys communicate that? I'm wondering how you do that.
So we can go back to the discussion we had in the how important FEL is. So I would call it like an earlier phase, before you start your project. How solid your execution plan is, how well you define your plan, how good the expectation is between the owner and contractor, right? What contractor expect from the owner, what owner expect from the contractor. It can be on the technical matters, on the commercial matters. So it's very important to have those hard conversations before you start anything. So everyone understand the rules and responsibility. Usually when the rules and responsibility are not clear, those conflicts start happening because people start saying, okay, I thought you're going to do that. No, I thought you're going to do that. So it's very important to spend probably a few weeks more when you plan for this, or um, before you get to the agreement with other party, to talk about this item. Then when you get to those type of issues, you have a set of agreement. You can say, okay, we talked about this before. This is my responsibility. This is your responsibility. Then you move forward. If you don't have that and you rush everything without spending enough time considering, technically forecasting all the important risk. You don't want to put all the risk, right? Your important, your critical risk in your execution plan. Um, if you do that, it will be easier, relatively, during execution. It's
It's an
not
in-
going to be easy. It's going to be tough, but it's going to
it,
be easy.
it's an interesting lesson and point of talking about bad news and talking about, talk through possible, tough conversations or uncomfortable conversations before you have to actually have those conversations. So therefore, these conversations are not as uncomfortable as
Yeah.
they can be. Let me read something for you. So I have a couple quotes from research, and I want you to reflect on that in your specific scenario. So there's a research by McKinsey. It was done in 2006 May. Um, More than 300 projects with contracts valued over $1 billion found average cost overruns of approximately 80% and schedule delays of around 50%. Um, at that scale, slippage is the norm, not the exception. So basically, what the rules of the game of running projects, especially capital projects like that, is that there will be schedule slippage. There will be cost overrun. It's almost guaranteed, right? How do you account?
The way I try to operate, um, it's to stay being proactive. So every day I try to, when I go to work or I'm doing something, is something that I'm try to be proactive. I try to see what's gonna happen in the future, what risk we have, what the risk I have that would significantly impact my project objectives, which again are schedule, cost, and a scope of work. Um, I believe that's the way you can manage your project objective better. If I get to a um, uh, uh, reactive situation, something doesn't work. I have to solve that problem, and if I have a lot of that, then that means I'm start getting into trouble. So I like I said, I try to be reactive, plan ahead, and make sure my team has everything they need to execute that plan. Otherwise, like I've seen that the statistics too. That the number I saw, I guess you said 80%. I guess the number I saw was like around 80% of the mega project don't meet their objective, which is cost and schedule. They delay. The and the challenge is because the mega project, like we talk about it, you have several stakeholders. You, if you want to change a pump or two pump on a site or a heat exchanger, you probably have one or two stakeholders, the operation who operate that pump. But when you get to the mega project, you have probably tens of stakeholders. You have to check everything with everyone. You have probably hundreds of suppliers. You probably have, depends on your contracting strategy. You have a lots of labor and engineering service contractors. So the opportunity to something goes wrong in this very complex communication matrix obviously increased. So I'm not surprised to seeing that number, that high percentage of mega project technically, they don't meet their cost and schedule
Mhm.
objectives.
So look, I mean, and thanks God we have this evolution of humanity, technology, internet, AI, everything that is helping us to actually achieve our, you know, very complicated goals, right? Very complicated, projects. We build those projects, and obviously, if we were to use just, pen and paper, we won't be able to get far. So we have to use technology to, well, a lot of times to enable us to even do this. But but no matter how we plan, it looks like stats are showing that no matter how well we plan our FEL, how no matter how well we do this, there's still circumstances, we call it unknown unknowns, right? Based on PMP, based on PMI, um, dealing with this unknown unknowns, and then we have to sort of figure this out, and it's really hard to know the future, as you said. We're trying to see the future, we're trying to predict, and it's hard to see that. So, what do you think the top reasons for these delays, for top reasons for not to meet the cost, the financial requirements or scope requirements of the project, schedule requirements? What are those top reasons? Is it communication? Is it lack of technology? Is it lack of skill? Is it weather? I mean, what is it? What do you think? Number one, number two, number three, whatever you can mention in that priority, in your opinion, is the top priority list of those reasons that we have those delays and cost ramifications of these delays.
There are some items that it's kind of you cannot forecast them, you cannot plan for it, um, like COVID, right? No one know about what's gonna happen when the COVID started. First, all the price dropped, then prices start going up. Then the supply chain interruption was significant. The ports they closed. So imagine if you want to place a purchase order between you and your supplier, what price you're gonna agree on, right?
Yeah, COVID
If you're
was, to my opinion, COVID was obviously one off. And I think these stats numbers that we're discussing, 80% of projects don't meet their schedule requirements and cost requirements. That all these stats are not necessarily based on this one off. These are based on there's a regular day, office, just a regular year, whatever happens in the world. I mean, we don't have, yeah, COVID was way, shook a lot of trees, and that wasn't good. But just if you look at the normal a day, normal year, a normal 5-year run, 10-year run, with some hiccups here and there, we can predict, we know that within the next 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, we're going to have some supply issues here and there. We will have some issues with energy here and there because it's always been like this. We always had some ups and downs. If you account for the average, what do you think? What do you think the top three would be?
Yeah, I was just categorizing to the some item that you have no control,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
COVID, no one had any control. And this mega project, they take 10 years sometimes. From the time you plan it, it's time to finish it. So a lot of things can happen. COVID was one of them. The whatever is happening in Middle East and the all this, disruption was another one, right? All the commercial challenges right now going on around the world, it's another one with all the tariff and uncertainty for doing business. Those usually you don't have control, right? 1 month before the thing happened in the Middle East, no one even thought that's gonna happen, or oil price jump up like that so fast. So you cannot forecast those. And there are some other items that you can plan for it. Mm, the top one I would say, like we discussed, everything. This is like a chain, everything connected together. If you don't set up your bases during FEL and you say, okay, I will finish this project in 7 years, you don't spend enough time to make sure if your basis is correct or not. You cannot finish it in 7. So you compare, probably they compare themselves with the not very well defined FEL numbers. I can say at a high level.
Well, that's why you have FEL 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, absolutely. They try to be optimistic. Um, or they want to jump to the detailed design before they finish the FEL. So technically, I would say the comparison to the benchmark probably is not very accurate for a project that it takes 10 years or a program that takes 10 years.
Well, let's talk about the technology a little bit. I'm sure that there's a lot of tools you guys use for everything, for scheduling, for project controls, for financials, procurement, document management. Um, How do you think how do you think it is important this day and age where everyone is using technology? How important this is to have the right tech for the project?
For some reason, which I couldn't understand, the technology getting to the construction business is very slow. So usually construction is the last group, in my experience, right? That
Yeah, yeah.
start utilizing advanced technology. We are doing it without advanced technology, and I don't know how you can execute this type of project, like you said, from the scheduling, from planning your resources. There are like probably 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 people working on this program at some point. For your cost control, for your engineering, you do 3D modeling, which are a smart model. You click on anything you click on, the model tell you what that equipment is, what's the tag number, which drawing you should go see that equipment, and all the information from, and which construction package that equipment is belong to. So without those tools, I don't think if it, it will take way more than 10 years to execute these projects. There are some, for me, I see some newer technology getting to this business on the construction side is, for example, the drone 3D scanner. So those are amazing technology that we started using, or I started using since last few years. For example, you build the equipment in a shop based on the drawing. So that equipment actually built based on the drawing? Is that equipment, for example, you set that equipment on the anchor bolt. Is the anchor bolts set on the right location? So when you bring your heat exchanger there, sit on the right location? Exactly. All the flanges, are they on the right angle and elevation?
Yeah.
Laser scanning for example, help a lot. So you can send someone to the shop. They do the laser scanning. They compare it with the drawing. They compare it with your site, your foundation, and whatever, your nozzle, everything. So before they ship it to site, they can say, okay, this will work. Because when you move it to site and you find something is wrong, that's going to be very expensive to fix it. It's much easier to fix this kind of errors, which happen all the time. It's easier to fix them on site.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering about the communication, and you mentioned a lot of stakeholders needs to be brought to the same page as far as expectations on the project and numbers, the budgets, deliverables. Basically, communication and resolving issues. If there's especially uncomfortable communication that needs to happen, then uh, the that communication becomes even more important. And how much impact do you think the the appropriate advanced communication we can bring to the project? How much value is that? Being able to manage stakeholders, being able to bring and escalate things to the right stakeholders on the right time. That to me sounds like this is a great value, because the earlier you address the issue, the less likely you're going to have that slippage, which is directly the cost to the project. So how much value would you put into proper communication on the project?
We execute these projects. There are like tons of concrete, tons of steel and pipe and cable. But at the end, it's human, right? We execute it. And as human, everyone different. Everyone have their own probably issue that day, and all those dynamic that as a human we have. So we deal with human. those equipment, they will be delivered, they will be manufactured, they will be on site. Communication is extremely important to make sure everyone understand the goal, understand the rules and responsibility first uh, before you make sure everyone understand what we're trying to achieve here and what my roles is and my responsibilities here, there will be a lot of inefficiency in the communication. How advanced technology can help there, I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm not sure.
well, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. Um, well, it's impossible to hide today all the AI that is around us. Okay, and I'm sure you have been playing with at least ChatGPT and Claude and other AI, possibly agents, stuff like that. Knowing that maybe Copilot. So, by the way, do you use any of this right now?
Yeah, I use them for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So, so what would be the thing that you would use this for on the project? Um, what would be that? What would be the AI use case when you are managing the project like that? How do you think this may help you to improve communication, which we just learned, and a lot of us knew that has a lot of impact on the bottom line of this project. No matter what you look at, the cost or schedule or scope, that's a big impact on that. So, how would you use AI? I mean, it's loaded question. I understand. It's sort of not easy to answer, but if that would be one thing that you would like it to do, and go your imagination wild, I imagine it can do anything. And what would that be that you want that AI assistant to be able to do for you on the project?
So I will tell you first what I see we are using more and I see the value and what I think it's good to have that feature in AI. So uh, you have a meeting, there are like people from 10 different companies all around the world, um, and talking about a complex situation. And the conversation goes everywhere. Sometimes it's hard for one person to take note, take action, I think, because the conversation get to a very technical topic, right? Or for any reason, or lots of back and forth. What we started using is the Copilot capability to make a transcript. Yeah, I see that very valuable. It's not something that you can rely on 100%. Whenever I use it, I have to look at it, review it to make sure everything's correct. Um, but that's something I see it very very useful these days. It's a great feature that Microsoft added to the Teams. Um,
Yep. Yeah.
and
Excellent.
yeah,
Hmm.
and for what uh, feature I wish we had, it's all the software that we talk about, right? So, for example, you have the scheduling software, 3D model software, cost software, construction management software, all this risk management software, or interface software, document control. If someone can make AI to make all these different tools talk to each other, that would be amazing.
Yeah. 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 I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. There's a lot of components and a lot of risk specifically that can be evaluated and identified with across the board compatibility of that AI. Um, Look, it's great conversation. Well, Nima, thank you so much. It's a great insight from your perspective, from Canada perspective, into the mega project. Very impressive, big project. And I wish you best of luck. I wish you be on time and on schedule and on budget within this project. Be getting this 20% percentile of be on time and on budget on that
Yes.
mega project. This would be amazing. And I would like to, as a matter of fact, I'd like to maybe follow up with you at some point to see, what has changed from now and then,
Yes.
and see what lessons have we learned, and that could be an interesting series of how this project is going. I'm sure it's a high profile project, very visible. We don't want to call the names anyway, but it's good to have other um, capital project managers to learn from others, from each other. So thank you very much. Appreciate for coming on the show, and we'll catch you later.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex. It was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to talk to you uh, in the future.
Sounds good.
Very
Thank you
good.
very much. See you later, guys.